Ladies and gentlemen, today is November 24th, 2012, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 60. I am your humble host, Kienan Lafferty. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial on drawing backs. Backs, right? Today we're going to be learning to draw backs. But before we get into that, we need to take a stroll down the YouTube? Yeah. Thank you guys once again for subscribing, telling your friends about it. I'm glad that you guys are taking enjoyment out of the weekly episodes. And now that we are doing the KNKL Emma stream Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can tune in to watch me working on my very own comic, Emma, Little Girl versus The Walking Dead. And speaking of that, if you go to the Facebook, this is going to be Emma's Lovely Lane. We got some awesome new fan art from... Oh, I gotta move over. Got some awesome new fan art from Pepe. So thank you very much for submitting that. I hope your name is Pepe, or Pepe, however you choose to pronounce it. So thank you very much. That is our very first Emma fan art, and I could not be more jazzed and excited about that. Now let's move on to the traditional, the KNKL Lovely Lane. We got Miss Fortune, we got Demon Angel Girls, we got Gambit. That's awesome. And then this sculpture, look at this. Who does that? That is so cool. That is absolutely brilliant with actual cloth and little straw things poking out. That is awesome. Thank you, Alicia, for submitting that. You are awesome, as well as these lovely expressions of an OC of Der Rasputin. So thank you guys once again for submitting your amazing creations to the KNKL Facebook. Please continue to do so. Moving on to the Twitter. For those of you who are not following, please follow because I will not spam you with links when I'm eating way too much rice. Last night I ate way too much rice, and I learned something very important. That fried rice, when you consume it in mass amounts, it actually expands even more once it enters your stomach. So I had this giant plate, and I probably got about 3/4 of the way done. And then I realized that, it was too little to take home, so I was like, all right, I might as well finish it. But like right down to the last bites, it got pretty scary. And needless to say, I had a very bad tummy ache. It was basically Thanksgiving full all over again. By the way, I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. But anyway, I digress. Please subscribe to the Twitter. I will not bug you when I am posting, or I will not bug you with spam links. But I will tell you when I'm recording new episodes and when I am about to start the KNKL live stream. So, last thing on our updates, the Emma online comic site will actually be being updated with the Emma streams every day at the end of basically the recording session. So you guys can come here, and if you guys are just on the website or one of your friends referred you to this website, then you can actually see the videos. Okay, man, there's so many more things to talk about. I don't know if I'll have to eventually cut that down or whatever. But regardless, that is another conversation for another time. Now you know what time it is. It is time for us to move into the tutorial. So let us get started here. So we are actually going to be continuing the series of anatomy, right? And we are going to be finishing off our awesome models with the final turnaround, and we are going to be exploring the back muscles in great detail. So with that, let us get started, shall we? So the big thing we want to talk about today is the basic construction of the back, right? And this is a way that one of my good teachers, Alvin Lee, taught me to do it. Basically, start out with some simple shapes, right? And then you'll go ahead and you'll start adding the muscles on top of that. So let's kind of start with, this is going to be the shoulder over here, right? Just a circle over here for the shoulder. Another circle over here represents that shoulder. Coming down to the back, like that. And think about that center line, like where it's going, right? This connects down to the gluteus maximus, the buttocks, if your buttocks could talk. And we'll just go up here to the neck. Okay, so that is a good start, right? We got basic outline going on there. Now let's go ahead and start learning the muscles. So as I taught you guys before, the big thing that I like to do now is I like to divide the shoulder into 3 parts, right? 3 little egg shapes. So you got one over here. I'll actually clean that up so you can see the shape. You got one right there, then two, and then three. And you can see how those correlate over to these ones, right? Because we're working from behind, so obviously those would be reversed. Those would be reversed now, okay? Don't you know? Moving on here, same thing. This is muscle number 3. And now we are going to go ahead and get into it. So the first thing we want to talk about is the trapezius muscle. The flying trapezius. So let us go ahead and sketch that in. And a really good way to remember, like a basic idea, is there's a little bit of like an X pattern that's happening on the back, right? And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about right here, right? There's this thing that happens. So see this X that's happening here? Always remember that. That X will help you. It will serve you. Serve you delicious food for you and your entire family. By the way, my Thanksgiving was amazing. I went to my friend's house and had some good eats. Had some good eats. You know, I was talking about a couple episodes ago about how as you get older, you start to notice different foods on the table, right? And one was the cranberry cylinders, which I enjoyed very much. Right here in my belly. And the other is stuffing. Like, you remember how much you hated stuffing when you were a kid? And then as you get older, you're like, I wonder what that is. And then you start to eat it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. What have I been missing my entire life? And then you just like start to hog it. Like yesterday, all the leftover stuffing was like up for grabs for breakfast, right? And I was just like hoarding it all to myself, and I got way more than I could have. But I was just like, man, it's so good. You gotta have more stuffing, right? I think stuffing is just, that's a mark of you getting older when you actually start to notice the stuffing on the dinner table. So I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I did not like stuffing at all. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here is you'll notice I'm dividing these trapezius muscles into two shapes, right? Almost think of it as dividing that line in half. And basically what happens here is the muscle is, again, remember how the muscle kind of fans out? It goes like it's fanning this way, right? So think of the muscles fanning like this. And there's a connective tissue here. That's also, it's more like this, right? And that fans upward and it connects to your brain stem. Well, the muscle doesn't, but you know what I mean. I'm a genius of anatomy, by the way, so I'm completely qualified to be teaching you my own studies. So moving on, we have the trapezius here, and we'll go back and we'll highlight these muscles in a moment. But basically, the real shape that you want to get is just this right here, right? And also a big thing to remember is how this actually relates with the muscles on the back, right? So this number 3 muscle is actually going to come back and connect a little bit more in this fashion, almost. It's almost going to come back and connect like this, right? And leave a little space in there because there's some other muscles that are appearing in there. So this is also like connective tissue. And I'll highlight those in a moment. So kind of think of the number 3 muscle as connecting. Right here, let me grab some red. Yeah, let's talk about this really quick, actually, because this is very important. So you've got your egg shapes, right, for your muscles, for your shoulders. You got 1, 2, and 3. But remember, the 3rd muscle comes back, and it looks like it connects right in here, right, to this connective tissue. Right here, and I'll color that in red. So remember, that is not a muscle, that is actually like tendon, or rather, connectibits. I believe the medical term is connectibits, so please make sure you get that right. And then the trapezius, remember, we want to remember this X shape, right? That's a good way to remember how to start the back. Basically, it comes down like this, and these muscles get divided in half here, especially right here. And then basically it fans out like that, right? Goes up to your neck, connects there, and this joins here. And that is your trapezius. That is the bulging muscle that swimmers have, this big old thing here. Yes, it looks awesome. So therefore, you should become a swimmer. Cool. So we got the connection that's going on there. Now let us go ahead and let's draw in the next bits. And we got that. So the important things to remember. Oh. So let me draw on this other thing too. Bless myself. I'm a paladin. Alright. So we got these trapezius muscles coming down here. And then there is another little connecty bit here, right? And then basically your Latissimus Dorsi is going to be coming out from underneath those, right? And let's go into more of that. The Latissimus Dorsi. Shall we? We shall. Moving on. Okay, so the Latissimus Dorsi comes from around the front here, remember? That's what we got going on right here, right? This muscle right here. Here, let me grab another. Grab another. Basically the muscle that is happening right here. That is going under and wrapping around to give us this, right? And then there are a few other connecting muscles in here. Looks like there's one right here. Goes up and intersects right here. And then you got this thing here. And another one that goes underneath, right? But basically, like, these are kind of like what I was talking about here. Remember with these muscles happening with the leg? There's just a bunch of, like, little, like, articulating little stabilizers in there. And really, all you need to do is just remember, I would say, this shape is the important one right here. That muscle right there. You don't need to worry so much about this. Here. That muscle right there. It looks very cool. Think of it almost like an eyeball, you know? It almost looks like a creature of some sort. You know, like these are the eyes. That's a good way to remember it. There are muscles happening there. Cool. Okay. So coming up, that looks good. And you got this big old thing back here. This is all connecty bits, basically. And this is going to lead us to the gluteus maximus. Then you got your obliques right there. And basically, this muscle. Actually, let's go back to the red. Back to the red. So what have we learned? Okay, let's talk about this. This muscle right here, the Latissimus Dorsi, your large back muscle, basically the biggest one, that's where you get your pull-up strength from, is all happening right here. And the way that the muscle fans out is actually like this. It fans out in this fashion. Goes up towards that way, right? Same thing over here, right? Same muscle. And then this is actually overlapping a smaller muscle in here, but we don't need to worry so much about that. That is just merely there for, that's basically like going under your armpit. The big muscle to remember is this one right here. This is the bulgy. This is the muscle that will bulge a little bit. Cool. Going down. We've got connecty bits. This is basically a large, remember I was talking about the leg here? This large tendon that's happening? Basically, that is what is existing here. There's muscle underneath, but this is actually like a big, kind of like a solid connection here, right? And it's important that you realize that it is not perfectly flat, right? There's actually like a curve that's happening here, right? So if I were to draw a line across this, it would go up, down, and up again, like that. So think about that. A little flatten out as it goes back there. Okay. Moving on to the obliques, right? The obliques come up, and then this overlaps the obliques. The obliques are happening right here. OB, right there. OB. That is so OB. Cool. So now we can see basically how this muscle relates to this one when you turn it around. And then the Latissimus Dorsi relates to that one. All right. I will highlight it once again with blue, just so we can make sure we know what we're talking about. Lovely. And let's go ahead and put a cool highlight on that so it looks shiny. Whoa, look at that. Bet you never knew you could do that. Teaching you things. Cool. So we got shiny Latissimus Dorsi. Now let's move on into the Gluteus maximus. Basically, we worked on that last week with the legs, but I'll just show you how it connects, just so you can remember. And then we will move on to the lovely lady, and we will compare how both of the figures relate to one another and how the muscles change. Okay. So basically, the way the butt works is actually very, very simple. It just comes around like this, and it goes down. Remember? And it connects to that large tendon that comes up like that. Right? Basically going to get that shape going down to your legs. And then you got the back bicep things. The biceps majoris, whatever those are called. And you got that going down like that. And there's your booty. All right, so I think that will go ahead and wrap up the guys portion. Now let's move on to the lovely lady, right? Move on to the lovely lady and make our comparisons. Whoops. Okay, let's see what's the easiest way to do this. Aha! Yes. Let's go ahead and just move this over here. Move that there for now. And yeah, we'll work right up here with the other one. Now, this is actually very, very fun. Very, very fun thing coming up next, because with the girl, basically we're going to be plotting out the same muscles, but we're going to be using them a little bit differently, and we're going to be rendering them a little bit more slenderly and softly. So the first thing we'll do is we'll start out with our shapes, similar to what we did with the guy, right? We'll start out with a little shape for the shoulder, right? And we'll go ahead and draw in the hourglass figure for our girl, right? This will represent her torso. Righto. Good. Draw that center line down really quickly. And the neck coming up like that. Cool. Like it. So we got the basic idea down. So let's remember, with the shoulders, we got 1, 2, and 3. That's number 3. Let's go ahead and connect that to the back, like this, right? So we know now that it connects that way. Let's go ahead and lay in the Latissimus, the Trapezius, flying Trapezius. And remember, we got that X going on, right? So let's remember that X. And it looks like it happens, I don't know, I would kind of like place it a little bit higher than like right where this curve is happening, just a tiny bit higher. And I think you can kind of wing it more or less. But don't place it like down here. Like that's gonna look weird if your trapezius like way down there. So yeah, just a little bit up above the lower back, right? So let's go ahead and draw that in so we know that it goes up like this, connects over behind. There's a little space right here for connective tissue, right? Now you've got the little opening right here that basically also connects it to probably the spine. Most likely, those bones are known to be in that area. They are known to exist in that area. And then we move into the Latissimus Dorsi. All right. And remember, there's like a little bit of like a diamond thing happening there. The muscle doesn't come down to an exact point. It'll kind of go down like that, right? And then from there, the latissimus extends from. All right. Good, draw that in. Wait a second. Wait a second. Need to make sure I'm doing this right. Yes, it does look like I'm doing this correctly. So we've got this shape here. Remember the connective tendons all happening within here. This will lead us down to our booty. Gluteus maximus. And then from here, the latissimus actually extends up this way, right? Think of it as it going up like that, right? Yes, that's good. And you got all these little connection things in here, but the important thing to remember is that little, remember the little eyeball kind of poking out like that. Go ahead and go up. Little eyeball there. Looking good. Looking good. And this actually represents the scapula, I believe. This muscle is overlaying the scapula and actually flows this way, right? So it flows like that. And then I'll show you how to basically take that and turn it into line art, you know, because obviously you're not drawing every single muscle. You're not drawing every single muscle in your line art, but it is good to know where it exists. Okay, that's looking pretty good. This is actually a little bit tougher than I thought it would be. A tiny bit tougher, a tad bit. So I think another important thing to remember is this right here. Okay, so you got the lat, right? Lat there, then the oblique on the girl is right there, right? And that looks lovely. Go ahead and bring that up. Let's go ahead and talk about what we have done so far. Then we'll move on into the booty. What you all came here for. Don't lie. Don't lie. Okay. Let's bust out the red. Okay, so the important thing that we remembered is after sketching in the basic shape, we draw in this X, right? And this is going to help us basically plan out what's going to be happening with the back, right? So basically, the trapezius comes down like this, right? Makes that little diamond shape. And then from that diamond shape, extends out from underneath the Latissimus Dorsi. And that follows up this way. The obliques come in right here. And notice, I really want you to notice how this is all relating to the guys back over here, right? Pay attention to the similarities and the differences. Pay attention. go up. We've got this muscle here. Now we got the number 3 deltoid, whatever that thing is going on there. Trapezius comes out from within. Trapezius divides there to connect to the neck. Lovely. And again, I always like to pretend. I always like to imagine the female muscles flowing a little bit more easily with each other. Like, don't make them like notice the guys like has all these like little indents and jumps and like large changes in the planes, right? Whereas the girls, I like to think of them more as much more flowy and beautiful. This goes back this way like that. Almost looks like the obliques. Pick up a little bit of that there. Interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and color in those lats really quickly so they can look the same. Remember the way that these muscles are flowing. Remember the flow. Big and shiny. Cool. And then also this part here. Remember, this is not a muscle. This is laying over top of a muscle. I do believe. But it is not actual bulbous, bulging muscle. Just remember how this is happening in here. Okay? Remember these planes that are happening. The hills. The hills. Okay, moving on. Now we go in for the butt. Now this is also very, very important to remember to do on a girl, right? Very, very important. It is imperative that you get this right. So remember, the glutes on the girl, the boots glutes on the girl start much higher, right? Because she's got much higher hips. Remember, as we noticed here, right? These things are going to come up and they're going to be way up here, right? And basically you're going to follow them down like this, and then we are going to connect them to the leg. It's going to be coming out like this. Alright. Okay, that's good. And there you go, you got your little bicep majoris in there, whatever you want to call that. And then this comes around like this, also goes down that way. And then you got this here. Okay? So always remember, like, make this, and I'll actually show this when we draw in the back, like what you're supposed to draw in with the lines, like what this helps you to do. Because there are some important things that you must remember. You must remember! And this comes up like that. There's a tendon happening there. Okay? Cool. Now let's go ahead and take what we have learned here, and let's go ahead and draw some lines over top of it to help you remember who you are. Remember who you are. Okay, so let's go ahead and dim that down a little bit. And then we will conclude episode 60 of the KNKL show. Okay, so you might ask, Keenan, what is important to... You show me all the muscles, right? But what's really important to accentuate when I'm drawing the backs, right, of the girl and the guy? I will show you the important things to remember when you're drawing these. So the important things are, you're going to remember to draw just the shoulder coming up like this, right? Shoulder goes back like this. Remember this muscle here, it's going to kind of go like that and in. Little changes like that. This is where the money is at. I'm going to tell you guys this once, never again. Little changes in your line, that small little thing that's happening right there, it will communicate so much in your drawing, and it will make your bodies look absolutely amazing and beautiful and sexy. And that is what we want. So remember, we're coming up like this. This connects here. And then remember I was talking about this muscle? Draw that happening, right? Draw just the edge of it, and that will represent your scapula, aka your shoulder blade. Same thing over here, right? Draw that in. You can just barely suggest that, right? It's all about minor suggestions. Coming down here, let's draw that in. Got this coming in from here, right? Again, subtle things. Now that we know where the muscles are existing, we can have small little changes within the obliques and the Latissimus Dorsi. Yeah? Yeah? You like that? Good. Let's bring that hip out a little bit. I'm going to bring it just a tiny bit in. Oh, actually, I'm not going to accentuate it that much. That's a little much. Take it down a notch. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to move down to here. Remember, let's draw on this line that's happening here. And then a big important line to remember is the Dimples of Venus. Basically those little dimples that happen on the lovely lady's back. Those will be appearing around that area, I believe. I think it's there. Maybe it's up a little more. Actually, I think it's a little more up here, like right there. Right there. Okay, cool. Now I need to move into something that is so important, and it will change your sexy ladies immensely when you're drawing them from behind. Get it? Okay, so when you draw the butt, basically coming out like this, right? Just focus on the outer edges, right? The outer edges of your lines. Okay? Now for the actual butt, all you got to do is just follow this line up, right? Right along that gluteus. Like that. Drawing that leg down. And then you can just draw that line there. And you just barely like suggest that muscle happening there, right? But then the other important thing is that you follow this line, right? Bring that line out just a tiny bit. All right? And then when you bring that down, that gives you a good looking butt. We like that. Cool. So once we take the lines away, you can see, basically, now we have our lovely lady figure. Lovely lady figure. Still don't like this hip. It's looking a little weird to me. I don't know whether it's too far out or what's going on. Maybe it's just a little too accentuated. It's too boxy. That's what it was. It had this thing going on. And I kind of do that sometimes because I'm drawing comics all the time, and I kind of like to like kick the edges out a little bit more. But it is not quite as needed as you might think. I'm actually going to bring this in a little bit. Another big thing that I have noticed about like butts is trying to make them like perfectly like round. They actually kind of have a little bit more of like a heart shape, right? They almost kind of like go down, you know, a little bit. And here I will explain. Let's go ahead and put this back here. So a big thing to remember about the butts is you got, also like this little thing. If you want to draw in that little line there, it makes it look a little bit more muscular. Whoops. Oops. Let me try this again. Let's try that again. Okay, so a big thing to remember about the butts is that it actually kind of has a little bit more of like a heart shape, like it comes down like that. And imagine almost connecting up here and making a heart, right? Same thing here, right? It's like an upside down heart. Almost think of it like that. And I think it'll help, as opposed to like just like two giant beach balls just like kind of stuck on there. Don't do your butts like that. Do yourself a favor and don't do that. Oh, man. Okay. And then because we know that there's like a little thing happening right there, you can kind of suggest that with a little line if you'd like to. If you want it to be super toned. And then basically you should end up with something like that, right? Now let's go ahead and move into the guy's back, right? Let's do the same thing with our male figure. And then we will conclude this episode after I edit it because I loaded up freaking Photoshop without the drivers, and that was really, really dumb. That was really silly. Okay, so same thing, right? We're going to have the arms come up like this. We know that the tricep is like giant on the guy, so it kind of comes down like that. It's up here, right? I don't remember these muscles. We've got the tricep happening there. But that is okay. We're not focusing too much on that today. We're just focusing on the outer lines, like what your body should look like once you line them. Once you line them. Once you line them. So going on down into head-ah. You can have a little bit more lines here on these muscles, right? Because we want to accentuate them. Let's go ahead and draw this line up like that. All right. And with the guys, it's a lot more fun because you can kind of like, for me, it's more fun because you can kind of follow a little bit more of the lines. You can accentuate things a little bit more. And I just think it looks really cool. Really awesome. Like you can draw on little lines here that you wouldn't want to draw on the girl's body because it'll make her look a little bit too rough and tough. But the interesting thing is that you can kind of like, you can play around. Like not all your female bodies need to look like this, obviously, right? Like you can play around with different things. You can make it a little bit more muscly. You can accentuate, more things if you want. Let's go ahead and draw this in, representing our shoulder blades. Shoulder blades, yeah. Cool. And then going down into the latissimus. Latissimus. Diarimas. Latissimus. Cool, I'm liking that. Oh, whoop. Drawing just a little bit too many lines here. Let's take it easy there. Take it easy. Don't go too crazy. Just a little, suggestion. Now for the butt on the guy, same thing. Gonna follow it up. Drawing this little thing here. Go ahead and do that. Down like that. And definitely draw this thing in on the guy because it just looks more, I don't know, masculine. I don't know. Just do it. I'm drawing guys' butts. What of it? So sue me. I do it out of my love for you guys. For all of you who are just so curious about how to draw men's butts. Men's booties. Cool. And now let's go ahead and take that away. And look at that. You got a cool, muscly, muscular back. And his looking a little bit comic booky because it's kind of a little bit disproportionate to his butt, but I'd probably do one of these, maybe. Cool. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, how to draw backs and butts. A subject that not many artists are brave enough to take the journey to, especially to show other people. But I hope this has shed some light on how I go about creating back muscles. And it's actually helped me out too because, I mean, it was a little bit more of a joint study session, obviously. I'm not the best at anatomy. So thank you guys for being willing to sit back, relax, and enjoy me sort of studying and trying to figure things out for myself. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap up today's show. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. I'm Kienan Lafferty, and I will see you guys on the KNKL Emma stream on Monday. And if I don't see you there, then I will see you next Saturday. All right, take care. Ladies and gentlemen, today is November 25th? 24th. And I got to do that over again. Ladies and gentlemen, today is November 24th. 24th? Hi. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 60, with your host, right here, Kienan Lafferty. No, I gotta stop looking at myself. Today is November